Hi everybody. I thought that perhaps today we could revisit my old army notebook. There have been one or two questions about what do all the numbers and the letters mean on its pages. Well, of course they map coordinates. I hope you won't think that I sound too much like a school teacher, but I have a whiteboard over here and I'll try and explain this a little bit more fully. But in order to do so, we have to have a map. So let's prepare a map. And there we have our map. It shows two features. A man-made feature, a road running across the map, and then a natural feature, a river. And I've given it the name of a very famous river in Mashonaland, the Hoya. Of course, this is just an imaginary map. It's divided into squares, known as grid squares, and these are the grid lines. Of course, a real map would have many more grid squares than this one has. They would be 1,000 meters by 1,000 meters, and they are numbered. On this map of ours, 78, 79, 80, and so on, all the way northwards. And then in an easterly direction, 22, 23, 24, 25. Okay, let's pretend that we've been out on patrol, and we've arrived at this bridge. And we want the truck to come and pick us up and take us back to our platoon base. Well, the driver radios us and he says, "Where are you guys?" And we tell him simply, "We're on the drag where you dropped us on Monday, but we're at the feature beginning with hotel." Now that's enough information for him to find us. But imagine something different has happened. Let's pretend that when we get to the bridge, we stumble across a bunch of gooks putting a landmine in the road, and a contact ensues. Well, we can't tell the platoon commander that we're at the feature beginning with hotel near the drag. That's not enough information for him. He wants to call out the fire force. He needs more specific details than that. We can't even tell him that we're at a bridge on the Hoya River. That won't help him either. Which bridge? There are 20 bridges along that river. So we have to be quite specific in giving him our exact location. And this is how we plot that position on a map. The contact has occurred within this grid square. The grid lines are all numbered, but we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. Think of this grid square as a house. You go in through the door and then upstairs, in through the door and upstairs. So we start with grid line, it's numbered 23. We've gone in from 23. Let's write that down so that we remember it. 23. Ordinarily, we wouldn't write on maps unless it's with a pencil and we'd erase it afterwards, but we wouldn't normally do this. Okay. 23. Approximately how far would you say the contact occurred from grid line 23? Well, think of that house as being 10 paces wide. So let's divide that into 10 little sections. How far would you say the contact occurred from grid line 23? 1, 2, maybe 3. The grid line representing the floor of the house, 79. Let's write that down. 79 is the floor. How far up did the contact occur? Maybe 3 again. So we would radio in our lockstat for that contact as being 233793. And they'd be able to see very, very quickly on the map in the ops tent where we've had that engagement with the enemy. Well, it may not seem like a particularly accurate way of determining your position, but it's good enough for most practical purposes. It doesn't have to be within 10 meters or anything like that. The helicopters are fitted with homing devices. You merely send an unmodulated radio signal. Chopper pilot can find you easily enough. We can chuck out a candle smoke grenade if there's any doubt about where you exactly you are. So that's good enough. For most purposes, that will be fine. Well, that's fine for the numbers. But what about the letters? What do they mean? Well, it was a code that we used called a Shackle code. Very simple. And let's clean the board, and I'll explain to you how it worked. Now, while I'm doing that, here's a very controversial image from the era of the Rhodesian Bush War. It shows the Zanla High Command, and look who's walking with them. The gentleman that you think it is denies that it is he. He says at that time he was at Moscow University studying law. Interesting thing is, I wonder what the Chinese thought of this, because Zanla was supposed to be in bed with them and not with the Russians. The Russians certainly were interested in what was happening in Central and Southern Africa. They had 2 spy ships in the Mozambique Channel, and they claimed to have monitored all our transmissions, and that they had broken the Shackle code that I'm about to explain to you on many occasions. So every time that I left the platoon base, I would be given a sheet of paper, and on this would be the Shackle code for the next few days. It was very simply across the top of the page, typewritten numerals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and of course 0. This would be prepared by somebody in the signal corps. On the left hand side would be the days of the week and the date, and each row would contain a number of letters. I don't know how the man arrived at these letters that he decided on. Possibly some gibberish went through his head. How many Charlie tangos did RLI kill yesterday? What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Afternoon. The next day, you might think something like, undoubtedly, Ian Bond was Rhodesia's greatest sportsman of all time. Don't know why I get my letters all back to front. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The big thing is there must be no repeating letters. It doesn't matter what is written down or on what basis these letters are selected. So if our lockstat was, let's say, on that first day on the page, 2, 3, 1, 4, 9, 0. And maybe we were asked by the platoon sarge to please give our position to him. We wouldn't give it to him in clear. We would give it to him in code. And then he would plot it on the map in the ops tent. So on that day, 2 would be Mike, 3 would be Charlie, 1 would be Hotel, 4 would be Tango, 9 would be Yankee, and 0 would be Alpha. And that's what we would tell him. We were at Shackles on, Mike, Charlie, Hotel, Tango, Yankee, Alpha, Shackles off, over. There was nothing more complicated than that. I find it very hard myself to try and understand why the Russians claim to have broken this code regularly. I don't know why they would bother, quite honestly, because how in the first place would they be able to anticipate what this man is going to write down or has written down? There's no process other than what's going on in his head. And not only that, it's only good for a day. So you can spend half the day trying to break the code. What are you going to do with it? You can't send it to the gooks. Half the time, I think they don't know where they are themselves. I've done follow-ups, and I've flattered them by thinking in my mind that they were anti-tracking, only to discover later they're not anti-tracking. They've got no clue that anybody's behind them. They just lost. They're bumbling around in the bush. They've got no guides. They're not from the area. They don't know where they are. So I can't see what the point is in trying to convey information like that to them. They don't have radios in any event. So let's go back to our booklet. I'm going to take a page and try and reconstruct our movements on that day and see if we can interpret it and find out what's happened. It's the page I showed you earlier. So let's take that information. First of all, let's draw an imaginary map. Ooh, not really, the proportions aren't very good, but never mind. And I'm looking at the numbers of the grid lines here. We've got a going to our east, 61, 62, 63, 64. Coming up from the south, what have we got here? We've got 74, 75, 76 it looks like. Okay, it says here, Saturday, 5th of August 1978, Gotta Hill Farm was attacked. And the location was at 620, so somewhere along that line, 754. 620, 754. Sure. Look, that's about it there. So there's the location of the farm that was attacked. Then we started following spoor, and we lost it at 625, somewhere in the middle there. 764. So we tracked the gooks to that position, and then we lost spoor. Then we must have done a 360 over there. I don't, look, it's all written down here, but I must say I'm a little bit unclear about this. We must have picked up spoor again, because then we had a contact at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. At this point, 637, somewhere along there, 756, about there. And there we had a contact with him. So all of that I can see quite easily just from this page that's written there. So that is what the numbers and the letters mean. Perhaps at a later stage in another movie, we can do a little bit more detailed map reading, if that is of any interest. But I mean, these things are quite elementary, really, and I don't know that they are of that much importance to people. But folks, thank you again for your support. Sure, that last movie got quite a lot of comments and got quite a lot of views, but it was a bit depressing. And I think we'll stick to something a little bit more cheerful from here onwards. But thank you all, and keep well. And we shall continue talking about Rhodesia again in future programs. Thank you very much again. All the very best. Cheers for now.